settle on the details of its accomplishment. We put old Redruth, Mr Carson, in the gallery between the cabin and the forecastle, with 3 or 4 loaded muskets and a mattress for protection. Now, why 3 or 4 loaded muskets for one man, you ask? Well, because it takes a very long time to reload a musket. I think we've said this before on the stream. It takes sometimes a whole minute to put the bullet into the barrel of the. Or often, this is a process of a gun now. Bang, 1 shot. Bang, 2 shots. Bang, all the way up to 6 shots. If it's an automatic gun, more shots. Here's how a gun works in 1769. You have a musket. The musket, you have a little, possibly wax paper packet with a bullet inside and possibly a small amount of gunpowder, so sort of partitioned off into 2 sections. You bite the paper open and you put the bullet into the musket barrel. You then draw a long wire rod called a ramrod from the musket and you push the ball down into the musket. You put your ramrod back. You pour your gunpowder down into the barrel of the musket. You then shoulder your musket, which would be very heavy. You then have a thing called you have the sort of the hammer at the back, which you cock back like this, like that, and then the hammer has got a kind of a flint in it, which then you pull the trigger. The hammer hits the firing pan, and there's a spark. The spark ignites the gunpowder and fires the musket ball, and then you start again. So they're giving him 3 or 4 loaded muskets so he can very quickly, if anyone breaks loose and tries to get him, he can fire 1 musket, then he can fire another musket, then he can fire another musket, then he can fire another musket, which hopefully would incapacitate 4 of them with only 2 baddies left. Assuming that's how many baddies there are. I can't remember the exact numbers, but basically they're leaving Redruth in charge. Yes, the old days were rubbish, Rhiannon. But the today days aren't very good either. Bear in mind, this is where this American thing of everyone has the right to bear arms. That's the time where all you can do is basically fire 1 bullet a minute in a pinch. It's not the same as owning a machine gun, is it? Yes, nice normal person who, of course, is a citizen of the United States of America, I'm sure is very well versed in all of this. Extraordinary. Anyway. Guns, politics, muskets, musket balls, firing pans, frisons, triggers, barrels aside. Muskets also, 2 things about a musket. Musket, very, very uncomfortable. Brass sort of shoulder pad here. No way ergonomic. You'd fire that and there's a good chance, especially in the mid 18th century, there's a good chance you might just break your shoulder because the kickback would be so violent. It's basically like firing a cannon in your hands, basically. Right back into your collarbone, if you don't put it in the right part of this here. Very, very painful and very, very deafened, actually, exactly, 50 pence. Yeah, incredibly loud. Powder smoke in your face immediately. You just be blinded by this very acrid, gunpowder full of saltpeter as well, which is very, very acrid, very, very noxious, right in your eyes, right in your face, and huge amounts of smoke that it would create from this explosion, basically, in this gun. And incredibly inaccurate. Because the barrel's just 1 long tube, which is not essentially what a gun barrel is anymore. It's a little bit more complicated than that. That's why later on, later in the 18th century, you get the development of the Baker rifle. So you get the rifled barrel. What does rifled mean? It means there's a sort of spiral worked into the tube that fires the bullet. So the bullet can be fired with greater accuracy over a longer range. This is actually, we've made fun of Alan Partridge, but this is quite Partridge. Well, very accurate over a longer range. Well, over the Baker rifle. Anyway, Here's Mr. Carson, sorry I mean Mr. Redruth, with 4 loaded muskets in case anything bad happens.